Hey everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me on Jamie TV. I will stop the reminder playthrough there because at that point we run out of guitars and stuff. I need to work on that bit yet, but thank you for being here. I have just woken up. I ended up going out gigging last night. I was needed for a jam band, and I wasn't expecting that when I sort of scheduled this stream and everything. I also wasn't expecting being back so late. So I only had a couple of hours sleep, and I had to get up this morning real early to get my little boy ready for school, take him up to school. And so I came home and felt like death and went back to bed. And I've literally just woken up and come into the studio, put all the cameras on and started the stream. So I'm completely unprepared. But fortunately, I did make a few notes last night that I'll get to in just a moment. First of all, I just want to say hello to the early arrivals. Hi, Jade. Hi, Matthias. Joe, thanks for being here. I think that's everyone who's joined us so far. Let's just have a look at the chat. Yes. Jade is doing an interview with Moog with... Hang on. My eyes. I need to zoom in on that. Gert Bevin, is that how you say it, from Moog? You're doing an interview in the morning. Is that a live interview, or is that one that you're going to record and put online? When will it actually be on, Jade? And then we can advertise it for you. I wonder if that's the same Moog guy that Matt from Audio Kit had interviewed. Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, I saw that. That was cool. Okay, right. It's the happy days of a rock star, which mostly involves being very poor and very tired. But 11 p.m. UK time, that will be aired today. Today or tomorrow? I'm confused because you're in the future, Jade, and it's just really hard to think about. Anyway, I have news. I made notes like some kind of a professional in the Darth Vader book. So before we get to today's stream, which I'm completely unprepared for, I have a few things I thought I'd mention. First of all, this arrived in the post yesterday. I haven't opened it yet. It's still got the plastic packaging on, but I have read about it. I've got an endorsement deal thing with this. If I like it, it's a cabinet mic from Integral. So you may have seen reviews of these in music magazines, particularly guitar players might have seen them in guitar magazines. It's basically, as you can see from the shape, it looks a bit like a steering wheel. You kind of take the screws out of one of your speakers and you attach this by putting this over it and putting the screws back in, and there's a little cable that comes off of it. So if you have a speaker with a grill, the cable can come out through the grill, and you simply attach a mic lead to it. The mic just stays in your cabinet, which will be really, really useful for me because I like to take two signals from my bass when I play live. So one is a mic on the cabinet and the other is the DI from the back of my amp. And we blend the two out front to get, because I get more of the lows, more of the thump from the microphone, and then the clarity, the sort of the note definition comes out of the DI. So I've got this, and I will be reviewing and demoing and making a YouTube video and stuff. Right, so there's that. Also, what I've had for a few weeks now, actually, that I should have mentioned previously, really, but I just kind of have been astoundingly busy, and Songtember is a little bit, well, it's time sensitive, and it's, there's a word for it that I can't think of, but it's sort of a bit all engulfing, really. But I have these cables. I have a blue one here, and I have this green one. These are both quite short cables that the music cable company sent to me. I know that's like the most imaginative name for a company that makes guitar cables ever. But, you know, it says what it is, right? It says on the tin what is inside. It's... And the exciting thing about these cables is not simply that this is a really cool green and that one's a really cool blue. It's they are supreme, high quality, handmade cables. So I have the greeny and the bluey, and they're a bit expensive. But you may have seen I did a video about the red one that they sent to me, which is a long one that I use live, and I really liked them, so I made a video, and so they liked the video, and in that video I did say that it would be nice to have a shorter one that I could use in the studio, because having a great big long heavy cable for studio use is a bit of a pain in the arse. So have you ever done that thing where you've got a heavy cable plugged into your interface, and you know interfaces are all small and light these days, you know, and the weight of the cable just drags the interface off your desktop, right? I think we've all done that. Well, these have been incredibly handy. Just nice, short, really, really high quality cables. And I know it sounds like a bit of, like a load of bollocks, really, like how much difference can a cable really make? And you want to think that way because a cable is the most boring thing in the universe to buy. But I can tell you from my own experience that if I switch out one of these cables, let's say halfway through recording things, right, switch out a bog standard ordinary cable with one of these and the signal is louder and it's clearer. So they do make an astounding amount of difference. And we spend a fortune on instruments and pedals and amplifiers, and I'm going to say we, right? Most people, definitely me in the past prior to receiving these, we connect them all together with like shit quality cables. So the signal that you end up with at the end of that chain is highly degraded. So these are absolutely awesome. Look them up online. The Music Cable Company. They're in the UK and they make everything by hand with a lot of love. And I happen to know the guys, and they're really, really awesome people. So I'm going to need one. I'm going to use the green one. They make slightly different kinds of cables. You can get, the angled jacks, straight jacks, whatever you want. And they do mic cables and stuff as well. They do looms. What was I going to say about them? But but they use slightly different components in different cables. When you go on the website, you can see how they're categorized and how different kinds of cables are particularly suitable for different kinds of instruments. They have cables that are suitable for low tunings, cables that are better for standard tunings for acoustic instruments, and this one is particularly good for bass. So I'll keep this one over here because I'm going to need that because I'm going to do some bass. What else is on my news list? I could do it like a news jingle. Right, on Patreon I've got 2 codes left to give away for Pitchpad, which I used a couple of days ago, and I was piss-panting around with it yesterday. I've got a couple of codes left to give away, so if you're on my Patreon account, get on there and tell me you want one if you want one. If you're not on my Patreon, then now is the time to join, because you might be able to snag yourself a free code. What I basically do with my codes these days, when I demo something for a developer, I ask them for some codes. Usually I get some, and I give them away on my Patreon account, because I don't like that thing that happens when people who never ever watch your videos suddenly are commenting on your video trying to get a code off you because you're giving codes away with your video. So I don't just give them away with YouTube videos anymore. They're just for patrons, because at the end of the day, those are the people who give me the most support and help me to continue doing what I'm doing here at YouTube. So they deserve something back. Now, what else? TempoPad. I've been sent a code just this morning that you can use if you want to purchase this Sonido TempoPad that I was using the other day, which I will be doing more demonstrating with, because I only really kind of gave a bit of an overview of how it works with iOS so far. I will be doing more with this. I've been given a code that you can use to get some money off if you want to buy one. I have yet to add that to my information that lives underneath my videos because I've just woke up. But I will be adding that. So if you were thinking about buying one and have not added it yet, then just contact me and I'll let you have that code. Okay, finally, streams on Patreon. I was streaming on my Patreon account and really enjoying it a couple of months ago, and then I started having all these streaming problems, which seem to have more or less gone away. What I've found is sometimes when I'm trying to start a stream, it just doesn't want to do it. It says excellent connection, then we start the stream and it turns to shit. So what I've found is if I restart the router before I do it, it seems, I don't know why. I mean, logically, it doesn't even make any sense to me, but if I do that before I start, then it seems to work. So, cross fingers, it's been working pretty good for this Songtember period so far. So I will be starting my Patreon only streams again when the Songtember thing has calmed down a bit. So I'm taking ideas for ideas for streams and videos to start making when I finish the Songtember thing. I'm making a list in the Darth Vader book of videos and streams that people would like to see from me. I've got like a Patreon one, and I've got a sort of, the wider unwashed people on YouTube list, right? So, if there's something you'd like to see me do, then just let me know in the chat or in a comment or private message me. All my contact information is down below the video. You can contact me on whatever platform you like. I'm on most of them. And I'll add it to the list in the Darth Vader book. I've dropped my my bookmark thing. Hang on. My bookmark thing is a zombie hologram, which you probably can't see very well. But it came with the game House of the Dead, which is one of my favourite games. Shooting zombies is like, it's the other thing that I'm really passionate about, music and shooting zombies. Okay, you'll have to forgive me if I sort of seem a little disoriented and talking a bit of crap. I'm just waking up. Right, let's have a look at the chat. Okay, I think I missed something. Right, the IK Multimedia, is that are you asking me about that? Because I can't see all of the if you're talking about the IK Multimedia stream mic that I wanted, well, I have heard back from IK Multimedia, and they said they can't send me one of those at the moment, but they are going to send me something, which is quite exciting. So when that arrives, I will be streaming or maybe making a video on that one. I'm not sure. Of yet another IK Multimedia product, because I do really, really, really like their stuff, and I do have quite a bit of their stuff around me. Right, okay, so let's have a look at what I've done since yesterday's stream. It's not a massive amount, but it's important. Now, where's my mouse? There we are. Okay. Switch it on. Make sure it's working on the correct iPad. Nope, it's on my old iPad. Switch Bluetooth off on there, and it'll jump onto the new iPad now. No, now. There we are. Okay. Right, now. I had some problems yesterday when I started the stream. Not with the stream, but with this project in Logic Pro for iPad. It was a little bit upsetting because I mixed it. I did like a rough mix so that I could sort of play the project to start the stream, just like I did today. And quite a few things sort of went wrong when I pressed play at the start of the stream. A whole bunch of apps were unhappy, and eventually I sort of traced it to AB PitchPad X. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, other than that it does use quite a lot of processing power. And so what I did was I made a duplicate of this project. And then I went into that project and soloed the track that had Phase Monkey and Pitch Pad on. And then I exported it as real audio. When I listened to it back, it was glitchy. So unusable. So I tried it a couple more times, and it was just not having it. So what I ended up doing was deleting everything else from that project. So it was the only thing left in the project. Then I exported it, and instead of taking 2 or 3 minutes to do, it only took a few seconds, and it was not glitchy. But I did have to kind of have the volume a bit lower than I wanted. You'll see that here, because I imported it as real audio right here, and as you'll see, it's a fairly quiet export, but it's loud enough to use. It's fine. So let's just start this. I'll just solo this, and I want to show you something. So I imported it as real audio, and I added to it. Oh, wait a moment. I have the volume turned down. It's because I did my nice professional fade out. Okay, let's try that again. Press play. Alright, so I achieved that really nice wobble sound with this app, which is another one that I'm going to be using. I'm most likely going to be using it in this track. I'm not an expert on it yet. I've had a pissy pants around with it, and it's really, really pretty awesome. I basically just kind of had a pissy pants around and came up with this sound, and it's and I dig it. So it's really, really cool, but I'm not going to be talking about it now because I need to become an expert on it before I start talking to you about it. But if I just deactivate that and just come back, so you'll hear what Phase Monkey and Pitch Pad came out like. It came out quiet, but I'm boosting the signal back up with Wood Velvet. And I'm just going to zoom this along to the end a little bit so that you can hear that the pitch thingy, that whatever that is, where I raise the pitch gradually from a G major to a C major. At the end of this part, you'll hear that worked fine when I exported it. Right, so that's pretty cool. I'm really, really happy that ended up working, because I kind of had this idea, this vision of how I could use the app in this project, and it worked. But then, because it's using so much processing power, it was screwing up the rest of the project. Now that that's gone, it seems that everything is working okay. Although you will have heard at the beginning of the stream when I played this piece, right at the beginning of the track, the sound for King of Bass is not right. I've not sorted that yet. What happened was it sort of just went to a default sound. It got upset, and it went, I'm not playing anymore. I'm going to my default sound, and I hadn't saved the preset that I had made in it, and that is now lost. I probably can find what my settings were if I look through my old streams, but I can't remember which stream I used it in, so I don't know. It might be quicker just to come up with a new sound. I don't know. So, Joe says, did the exact same thing to me with GarageBand. No apps were working, so I had to duplicate and merge some of the tracks. It seems this is an Apple problem. Okay. Right. So, I'm here to do some bass today. So let's... Did I do anything else new to the project? I don't think there's anything else to show you. Really, the main thing to show you is, I think, that everything's working all right now. It will be interesting to see whether those hanging notes that I kept suffering with in Tal might disappear now that we've not got that app sort of exhausting resources. We shall see, no doubt. Right, so I'm going to come to this section where I've got guitars. Of course, if I just, zoom back out a little. Right, so this section here, one of the things I like about Cubasis is that, you know, when you do this, when you make your instruments fat and make them skinny again, in Cubasis you can make them skinnier, so you can get it so that you can see all your instruments on one screen. It means that they're all very small, but it's nice to be able to look at the project and see everything in the project, and you can't do that. You can only go to a limitation. There's a limit on how skinny you can go. You know, I'd like to be able to go skinnier. Right. So yes. So in this part of the project, at the end here, it's basically the same arrangement as this section here that I've put the guitars in. What I thought I'd do is I'll just put the guitars down for like one section. I want to live with them and make sure that they're the right parts and that I've played them in well enough. Let's get them right. Same with the bass. And then I'll either copy them across to the end or I'll play them in again when I've decided whether or not they need redoing, that sort of thing. So, because it's the same arrangement, I'm not worried about the end of the project, although it will need a new solo for that section. I'm pointing at the iPad, and you can't see that I'm pointing at the iPad because I'm a stupid hippie, basically. If I had this view on, where are we? There, you can see that I'm pointing at the iPad. Yeah. Right. So, I have already set myself up a track for recording bass guitar on over here. And I have already added Nembrini bass driver. It's only on the default sound at the moment. I mean, it just sounds amazing when you just have it on default. I mean, the thing, this app is, in my humble opinion, the very best thing that has come out on iOS for bass players. It is an absolutely stunning piece of work because it basically has all the preamping possibilities you could possibly want. It splits your sound 3 ways, crossover wise. You can add overdrive to those 3 different bands to whatever degree you want, and compression. And then it's got the parametric EQ and the graphic EQ, and it's also got the cabinet section. You can mix in your clean DI and a noise gate. It's It has everything you want, and it sounds spectacular. And the desktop version has even more, in the cabinet section, and cabinets and mics and room sound, all that stuff. It's just amazing. So since I got this, I pretty much don't use anything else for bass. Magic stuff, right? So that's what I'm using, or I'm going to use. Now, I did think it might be nice to have a bit of a playthrough and have some kind of an idea of what I'm going to play bass-wise. But then I had a nap, right? So who knows what's going to happen? What I'm going to do is, in my Darth Vader book, I wrote down the chords for this track. So let's just get to that page. See, I left my zombie hologram in the correct page, and then it slipped out, and there we are. Right, okay. Right, I'm going to need this cable plugged in. Let's just sort that out. My Arig Pro Duo is over here. Plug that in there. Now, before I grab a bass, I'm just going to set up a loop around this section. So that I can sort of have a jam along, practice, see if I can come up with anything that doesn't suck massively. You'll see here, look, no you won't even unless I press this button. You'll see here that these are my wavs, right, for my guitars. And I know I keep banging on about this, but this is really, really important stuff. There's a temptation these days, now that we can go into the audio that we've recorded and we can chop it all up and time it perfectly. There's a temptation to feel that you really need to do that, because when you really zoom in and you see like, ooh, look at that. I started just before the line, and that one, is even earlier. I better just chop that and move it. And then you go through and you bring all the guitars perfectly into line like this, But if you look at my playing here, you can see that I'm human. And I've just done a thing. Yeah, okay. Thankfully undo worked. Right? So you can see that I'm human and that it's slightly out of time. Now, in the olden days, if you were in a studio and you were laying stuff down and you did a take like this standard, the producer would say, that's a good take, right? It's in time, because he's using his ears, he's listening to it, and, and as far as the ears can tell, it's in time. You don't need to check whether it's in time with your eyes. If it sounds in time, it's in time. And being slightly human, slightly imperfect, and slightly out of time actually sounds better. I've used this example before, but I have a friend who wants to record a really, really heavy album, and when he laid down the many, many, many guitars for this track that he was putting down, he went through them and he played all the parts in before he did any editing. And I heard this rough version of it with all these massive sounding guitars. It sounded enormous. It was really, really heavy and powerful. And then he went through every single track and he timed every single chord. So they were all perfectly in time. And he thought that would make it better. And it then just sounded like one guitar, right? It sounded smaller and it sounded sterile. Just check timing with your ears. This sounds better than if they were perfectly in time. I mean, you know, in the olden days when all we had were our ears, a producer probably would say that these performances of mine here were perfectly in time. That sounds a bit ego. I don't mean it to sound like that. I'm not an ego guy. Right. So, there's my bass guitar track. Let's grab that bass. This is the V4 bass from Vintage. It's a Fender Precision copy. Every bit as good as a P bass, just like a quarter of the price, because it doesn't say Fender on it. Now, oh, and this bass, by the way, this is the bass that went missing when I went to Japan with Graham Oliver's band. This is the bass that when we arrived in Japan, our instruments were all missing, and nobody knew where they were. So the promoter had to hire us some instruments so that we could do the gig, the first gig. And then after the gig, all the instruments arrived. So for the next gig, we had our own stuff. Okay, so let's arm this track, and we'll use the tuner. It's good to be in tune. All right. Now, best check my input level on the iRig Duo. Right. Okay, that looks all right. Metal should be slightly out of time and out of tune. The thing is, yeah, you know what? When metal started, you know, people argue all the time about what actually started metal, who can take credit for that. You know, I mean, if there's one band, in history that can claim that title above everyone else, it has to be Black Sabbath. And I actually had the fortune of working with Tony Martin, who was the singer for Black Sabbath for 10 years before they got Ozzy back, and also Jeff Nichols, who was the offstage keyboard player for Black Sabbath right from the time when Ozzy went and Dio joined, right up until a few years ago when Black Sabbath started using one of Rick Wakeman's sons instead. Hey, Pete. Now then, dude. Do you know, I wondered how long it would be before somebody said slapping the bass. And it had to be you, Pete. I hope you're well, man. Right, so I've just been telling everyone, Pete, I wanted to have some idea of what I was going to play on the bass today before I started this stream, because you know what, like, bass playing is my job. I'm a session player, and you know, so whilst, like, yeah, I also do guitar sessions and I do sometimes play in bands as a guitarist, but bass is my main instrument, so I don't want to suck massively in front of people, but as it happens, I had to have a nap this morning. I've no idea what I'm going to play. I've got my list of chords, and we're going to see if we can make something up. Yeah, Ozzy and Dio are legends. I never met Ozzy or Dio, because, you know, when people find out that I work with someone who was in Black Sabbath, then they ask me, "Oh, have you ever met Ozzy?" Have you ever met Dio? Well, no, because I worked for Tony Martin, who was the singer in Black Sabbath. So why would that mean that I would meet Ozzy or Dio, who were also singers? But it's one of the most common questions I get asked. Right. So, this is the section I am going to be trying to come up with some bass for. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill those leads. We'll mute the lead guitar and the harmony part. And I'm going to have a little jam along. Let's see what we've got here. C. All right, so this is it's a basic chord sequence, and it will be a very easy chord sequence for me to put a line in that goes something like I'm basically playing that groove that the rhythm guitar's picked up on, that kind of thing. I think it sounds better with a pick. You know that war that goes on with bass players about whether you should use fingers or a pick, and people who play with a pick often get hammered by old school fingerstyle players. I find the whole thing is somewhat pompous and rather dreadful because it's just stupid. Different techniques work great for different kinds of music. I use both. I slap the thing. Yes, Pete, I do slap at the bass, and I play. I do tapping and fingerstyle, and I play it with the pick. I play it with my arse if it was the right sound for the track, and that's all anybody ever really needs to think about, I think. Not me playing with my... Anyway, right, so I thought that sounded better with a pick, right? Any opinions on that in the chat? What do you think? Because I've just sort of had a thought, and And I don't know, but the one thing that's bothering me about it is the first 4 chords in this progression are all based around C. So you've got C, then C4, then C2, back to C. So it means if I just play the root note, it's quite static. So then I was thinking maybe if I went like, if I play here, right, then I could play a 4 just there. Because it seemed to sound quite good when I was doing the octave thing. So if I replace that octave note with a 4, maybe play the 3rd. For when it's just a C, just play the 3rd. Then go to the 4. And then the 2nd. That's a more difficult hand position. It really is. And then back to the 3rd. Right. But if I'm doing octaves, it might be nice to do a slap, which would be let's see. That could work. I guess I should have a pissy pants around with it. Hang on. All right, thoughts, right? Thoughts. Fingers, pick, or slap. I'm kind of feeling when I do the slap, when I was playing it with the pick, I felt like if I play the groove like the guitar and go like, and leave that space, that kind of works. But playing the slap, I'm feeling like maybe it could play something in that space. I'm waiting for your opinions. I'm going to have a piss pants around while I wait for your opinions. I'm playing the wrong thing. No. No. What about that? No opinions. Right, okay, well, sod ya, I'm gonna have a go with it. I don't know what I'm playing for this bit yet. What about that? What about that? I quite like that. You prefer the pick, Matthias? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm liking that line. Let's see if I can play that line with the pick, see what that's like. All right, so that's the line with the pick, right? Don't know why that word was so difficult to think of, but yep, that was the line with the pick. I had an impression slap interfered with drums and picked lines sound more natural. Maybe just me. Oh, that's a really good point. Actually, what I do, and I'm not just nicking your thought process here, Matthias, I promise. What I usually do is, before I put something down, is I will solo the drums, right? Listen to just drums with the bass, and then I will listen to it with each guitar part, make sure I'm not clashing with anything, because when you come up with another part for a track, when you've already got a certain amount of instruments down, you want to be checking not just that you're in tune and in time, but is the new part that you're playing, is it playing across something? Is it getting in the way of something? Does it fit with everything? So, I think I have a delay between chat and stream. Yeah, this is this is a common problem at the moment, Matthias. The YouTube chat is well, it's all fucked up, to be honest. I was talking to someone in a stream the other day, and they weren't replying to me, right? And they were in the chat, they were talking to other people, and they just weren't talking to me. And I thought, I'm sure there's no reason why this person would have the face on with me, right? Then all of a sudden, I was getting replies to everything, and I'm finding that when I'm looking at the chat while I'm streaming, it goes really quiet for ages, and then suddenly I'm getting it sort of, several comments sort of shoot up the chat. So it is all kind of screwed up at the moment. So are you saying that you did like the last take that I did slap-wise? Because I'm kind of thinking that, personally, I'm kind of thinking that one, I think that was my favourite. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to mute off the guitars. I don't think the synth's much of a problem because, well, it's really only going to be tal. And that's only really block chords. So I'll leave that there. Right, now let's see if this slapping the bass does fit with this drum part. All right, so I think that fits great with the drums. I'm not hearing any problem there. Oh, thanks very much for that, Pete. yes, if you would give me a little bit of thumb love, I would greatly appreciate that. What do you think, Pete? Now, I'm going to put one of the guitars back in so I can hear how this potential bass part fits with the guitar. Right, I reckon that's absolutely fine. But what about the arpeggio one? We'll lose the rhythm guitar so we can have the arpeggiated guitar in here and here if it fits with that. And I think it fits fine with that one as well. Joe says he wishes he knew how to play guitar and bass. Well, Joe, I don't know what age you are, but you know, it's never too late to start learning an instrument. I mean, you know, I've been playing since I was a teenager, but when I started when I was a teenager, it seemed like all the other people who played around me had all started much younger, and I was miles behind. I was miles behind for a long time. If I had started sooner, actually, I might have, my career might have been a bit more fruitful earlier on. But I wasn't ready. You know, the whole hair metal thing was happening around me, and I looked right, but but I wasn't a good enough player yet, and so my career of, you know, being able to play with some name players and all that stuff happened later on. It happened actually when rock music started to come back, and it fell just timing wise perfect for me. Because in my 20s, my life was a disaster. I was a disaster. I'm quite ashamed of the person I was back then. I hit 30. I changed my ways that day. And that day, I got an offer to go on tour with some famous people. And I hadn't played the bass for years. And I had less than a week to learn a 2-hour set. And go on tour, and it changed my life, you know. Changed my life, and I've never looked back. But it's never too late to start learning, because, I mean, like I teach, right? And I teach my youngest student's about 8, and my oldest student is 74. And most of my students are either kids, there's a lot of teenagers, and retired people. You wouldn't believe how many people get to that age, right, where they take retirement from work, and suddenly they've got some time. And at that age, people tend to have a little bit more disposable income as well. So they've got a bit more income, and they've got time, and they're like, what am I going to do with my time? I always wanted to play guitar, and so they start coming for lessons, and actually a lot of them think that it will be hard and they won't do very well because they're older, and that's not the case. It purely comes down to how much you're prepared to put into it. I've got students who started playing in the 60s, one who started in his 70s, and and they're doing really well. You know, some of them come to my acoustic jam that I often do on a Sunday, and get up and play, and play really well. You know, never too late to learn. Pete says, my 11-year-old is learning classical guitar. I told her she needed to switch to bass. Well, you know, all the coolest people play bass, you know. Do you like the finish of this one, by the way? This is a Silverburst. A good friend of mine, who is also a big fan of vintage instruments, he pestered John Ombiscues, who owned the vintage brand. He pestered them for years, incessantly, for Silverburst, and eventually they made it, and it's been really, really popular, and they did their limited editions on their 50th anniversary in Silverburst, which is what my Telecaster is, that's featured in some of my other videos. And the reason they did that is because a few years before that, I pestered them incessantly for several years to make a purple bass, and eventually they did, and that's why I've got a purple bass. So, you know, well, okay, so I'm just kind of nattering and going completely off the point here, so I should get back to this this bass playing. I think that fits well with the track, and I'm happy with the slap. And nobody is saying don't slap, so I think I might have a go at putting that down. What's my interface saying? It's going slightly into the orange. When you slap, it tends to... I'm just going to take it down a little bit. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to go through what I'm playing here. That's right, so when people slap, they tend to do roots and octaves a lot. And then the natural thing to do is to put in a flat 7. You know? That sort of thing. And I've always kind of tried to... I've always railed against that, really. When I'm coming up with a slap line, what I try to do is, rather than just go root octave, I try to put in a note from the chord, because for me, what makes a bass player a better bass player is knowing your shit when it comes to chords. If you know what the notes are in the chords, then you will be a much better bass player creatively, because you should be supporting and complementing those chords. Imagine a situation where you're in a 3-piece band, right? Drums, bass, and guitar. Guitarist goes off on the solo. Now, a scale only sounds, let me say this a different way, right? If you think that a minor scale sounds miserable, then you're wrong. A minor scale sounds miserable when it's played over a minor chord. It's the chord that makes it miserable. So, therefore, if the guitarist goes off on the solo and all the bass player can do is play roots and octaves, it makes the solo sound less effective. If the bass player can run through the notes of the chord within his groove, then you are outlining that chord, and the solo will sound better. And that's kind of my favourite situation to be in a 3-piece band, because it's an excuse to play more notes on the bass. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm going root to a 3rd. So there we have the sound of the major chord. And I'm playing like on the kick and the snare. And I'm borrowing this 4 note back to the 3rd, just to give me just a little bit of something tasty to put in there. And then I'm going root to 4, because that's when it goes to the C4. Then I'm using the 2 and the 3rd, again, just for something a little bit tasty to go in between. So then I'm going root to second when it goes to C2, repeating the first little bonus bit I put in, and then back to what I did the first time, but putting the second tarty bit in because I've got two tarty bits and I'm kind of going between them, like that one first, that one second, and then repeat them in that order. So I get this. Oh, we're going to play it wrong then. I'll start again. For C major, for C4, for C2, back to C. And when I get to the E, that's a minor chord, so I can use the flat 7 there. The G, I am using root and octave there, but then putting the third and the second in. Again, just for a tarty bit. The A is a minor, so I'm repeating what I did over the E. Then on the F, if I'm honest, over the F, I didn't even think about what the tarty bit might be. I sort of, on the fly, couldn't quite see it, so I just climbed up the scale playing octaves. I went to bring me back to the C to go around the progression again. Right, so I've been through all that as though I know what I'm talking about, and now I'm going to try and play it in. So now might be the time when it becomes clear that I really don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, let's just, on the solo there's guitars. I think I'm fine with playing this in with all the rhythm guitar parts in. Let's just double check tuning. Now I've done all that slapping. All right. Let's have a go. Bollocks. Right, okay, well, I messed up on the second progression there, but it'll just give me a chance to have a look at the WAV and see what it's looking like, because when you're slapping, you've got to be real careful. The last thing that you want is a note that goes off the grid. So let's just have a look at this WAV. Has anyone noticed, by the way, that in Logic Pro, you see these WAVs here? That does look like it's probably peaking, like it's probably way off the grid. But when you zoom in, it changes. And that's an inaccurate representation of what you've played, because even though, you know, when we're not so zoomed in and the WAVs are smaller, they shouldn't be longer, right? There's something not quite right there. If I zoom out again, look, now these appear to be off the chart. Zoom in, and they seem not to be. I'm just looking at my playing here and just seeing how it's lining up with the drums. looking reasonable, I think. Okay, these seem a bit louder here. Must have got a bit more excited there. You see, that one's off the chart. So I'm going to turn my input down. I am going a little into the red, actually, when I'm playing that G. Right, now what I might have to do here is boost it, excuse me, on the desk. Right, so we'll delete that one. Wouldn't it have been awesome if I'd have got it down first take? For a little while there, I thought I might do it. Okay, so that's actually a 0 dB. So let's do it in bass driver. Turn it up there. What's that like against the music? Yeah, that's all right. Joe says, what tuner app do you use? I use Nembrini, NA tune. That's Nembrini's tuner, isn't it? The Nembrini told me it was only for bass and guitar. Was why it wasn't working anymore. I can't find an AUV3 tuner app for all instruments. You know what, Joe? That is a fantastic point that you've raised there. I'll tell you something, right? Tuners are something sadly neglected on iOS. Now, if you go in the App Store and search tuner, as you will know, you'll have done this, you'll find loads and loads and loads of free tuner apps, the kind that you can have on your phone, you can pop on your desk, and you can tune your acoustic guitar, and they're really accurate, they're free and accurate and brilliant. There's loads of them. I use the Boss one, but, you know, any one of them, they all use exactly the same technology, actually. They're all pretty much as good as each other. But when it comes to AUV3 tuners that you can use like inside of a door or maybe in your chain in AUM, that sort of thing, it is sadly lacking. I mean, I was so happy when Nembrini brought us one because, you know, we were desperate for one. This is, so they've told you it's only for bass and guitar. I've used it for tuning drums. I've used it for a few other things other than bass and guitar. I think there's no reason really why it shouldn't work for other instruments. I guess maybe certain frequency responses might be awkward for it, but I can't see why not. But you know, apart from the Nembrini one, where are the rest of them? Right, I should crack on and record some bass. Let's. So you asked what tuner I used, right? Well, I'm using at the moment the built-in one in Logic Pro. So if I just press this button up here, it gives me a tuner, and I think it's the only door on iOS that has that. You use Guitar Tuner, spelt like the fish. Yeah, I've used that one. Yeah. Desperate lack of AUV3. Almost as desperate as the lack of decent real acoustic sounding drum apps, which I've been nagging developers about for what feels like centuries. I think I heard some news that GSI were working on one, and GSI's Drum 80 is stunning. That's a Simmons emulation, but if they brought out a real audio, a real acoustic drum kit one, that would be superb. Right, let's see if I can play this damn thing. All right. Okay. I like that. I'm enjoying that bass line. I think that's pretty cool. That's all well within an acceptable size of WAV. We're not peaking too much. So let's move this along here. This is what I want. I'm just pressing, you know. Not pressing right, I'm just pressing anything. Okay. Just press stuff until it works. Right, so now let's have a listen to the next section, see what we need here. Thank you, Peter. I think I've decided I'm going to go low on the climbing octaves. The chords at the end of this section just climb just in a very, very basic way. I'm just going like D major, E minor, F major, G major, and I was climbing up. I'm in the same frequency as the guitar if I do that, so I think I'm going to drop. Thank you, Pete, and thank you, Mateus. It's, you know, I mean, it's nice to get really nice compliments like that about my playing. You know, I'm not being falsely modest about it or anything, but it is my job, you know. So, yeah. So it's my job. It's my job to be a bass dude. I've been doing it for a very long time because I'm very, very old. You know, I'm quite ancient. I feel privileged, to be honest, to still be able to do it because I made such a mess of my life when I was a young man that I'm just lucky to have sort of had another another shot at it. And I've been earning my living as a musician now forever. And although, I'm not a millionaire and I don't have a gold Porsche, I feed my family by playing music and teaching music, and I think that's it's a pretty cool place to be. So I do feel very, very privileged for the life that I have, and for the fabulous friends actually that I've made online in this community since lockdown happened, and I started. I was already doing some iOS music making for my own amusement. I was exploring that, but when lockdown happened, all my work went, right? No one could come here for a lesson. I couldn't do any gigs, and that's why I started doing this stuff. And I've met some amazing, amazing people. I've made some fabulous friends. I'm very grateful for it. So, it seems quite straightforward and simple, this line, but I think it works. And it sits with the drums. I'm sure it will sit with this guitar. Okay, that fits. I'm happy with that. This may seem incredibly rude. I have to check a message from my missus. One of our kids is not well, so I just need to make sure that... Okay. Right. Sorry about that. Right. Not horrendously ill or anything. Don't, panic. Just off school. Right. I'm going to put that down. I think that works. I'm happy with that. There's been no objections in the chat. Am I happy that Music Lab is coming to iOS? Looks like I haven't. Yes. Actually, I am really happy of any developer coming to iOS. I really am. And the best thing about Logic Pro for iPad, whether you like it or not as a DAW, and whether you like it the fact that it's a subscription model or not, it's a difficult word to say. It's opened the doors. It's opened the doors for more developers to be interested in the platform, and it's gonna you can see already the influx of people coming to iOS music making because of Logic. Right, I'm going to put this bass down, and I want it to kick in from there. Right, I just want to hear that. You have to press stop, Jamie. Stupid hippie. Right, I just want to hear that. Let's have a look at the WAV. That's strange. Look at the WAV. Really, is my playing that different in that bit? Let's just solo that. It's fine. It's because I'm thumping the A string, and on the in the first section you'll see yeah, right. So here, this is where I'm thumping. When I thump the E chord, I'm thumping on the A string. But for the rest of this section, other than when I play an E, other than when I play the bass part over the E chord, the rest of the time I'm thumping from the E string, which obviously has a lot more weight to it. That's why. Okay, so no need for concern. And then at the end here, this is where I come down low onto the E string. Joe says, I'm in the middle of messing my life. I've been addicted to hard drugs since 17. First weed 10, regular pain pills, early teens, the 13, heroin, and fentanyl at 27 now. Well, Joe, I do understand. I do understand what it's like to have an addictive personality and to struggle in that way. I do. And if you'd like to reach out, if you want to have a chat, then by all means do so. All right, all my information is down below the video. Now, I can't promise that I'm of any use, but but sometimes it's just good to know that you can talk to somebody. Now, I've recorded bass for 2 sections of this song, and it has one more section, which has now become amusingly known as the fart metal section for this reason. I'm going to have to get rid of that sound, aren't I? Right, now here we're in a different key. We're in a different key, and I was thinking originally, actually, that I probably would go back to synth bass in this section. Maybe use the sound from King of Bass, which is all screwed up at the moment, but we'll sort that out. We'll get to that. So I could do that, or I could play some real bass on it. Obviously, I'm not feeling slap on this section because it drops down real slow in this section. We go to a different key. The chords I'm using here are C minor to F minor. It uses, and at the end it goes G minor, G major, and that, and then we've got the pitch climb up to C major. So let me just have a little tinker along here. Fart noise. draw my loop around this section here. There to there, I think. Right, I'm just going to try a few possibilities, a few ideas. I might just take this off for a moment and just hear Phase Monkey roar, I think. I've just realised what it is that's not quite sounding right. What I'm doing wrong. This goes C minor. Then it plays C minor with a sharp 5. No. That's it. So, C. Maybe I could play that sharp 5 on my way to the F. So the sharp 5 is going to be G sharp. Maybe I could play it low. Or higher. Forgot where I was. What I'm going to do there where the pitch climbs, because I'm thinking that this line, something like this, a simple line, the lower notes actually seem to sound a little bit, makes everything sound a little bit dissonant. I think it's that, because Phase Monkey's played in a fairly low frequency and it's got a lot of wobble to it. It seems to sound okay when I play it a little bit higher, as long as I don't go kind of below this C. I'm thinking this simple line, the bass is doing something interesting-ish, but not too flamboyant, because the slap playing is kind of a fairly flamboyant sound. So a nice contrast here, going to fingers. I think this idea works. Interesting that when I play that sharp 5 note, it works as like a root note, like as if we're actually going to a G sharp chord of some kind, but we're not. And then we drop onto the G minor. I'm only playing a root note. It changes to G major so I can stay on the root note. But then it goes up. The pitch goes all mental. So if I was playing here, where am I? Is that where G comes in? G. Could that even work? Where's C? I think that's probably just a bit silly. It's a silly idea. It's a silly idea. But still, I'm tempted. let's just see. I wonder what this would sound like back on. Now I've got a vague idea what I'm doing. Let's put loop back on. We'll press play. No, I think that's a very silly idea. I'm just going to play the root. I'm just going to play the root. Right, okay. So I'm going to play that line in so I can listen to some of this bass back. I'm going to need a metronome counting. I think I've got that set up anyway. Okay, right. Look at the difference in the WAV there with fingerstyle playing. Okay, well, I think that works. I'm quite happy with that. So, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to call it a day. Excuse me, sorry, I seem to have picked up some kind of tickly cough. It's got absolutely nothing to do with being a smoker. Don't you dare say it is. I think what I'm going to do, I want to call it a day for now. I've got a few things to take care of before I go and collect my boy from school. So I've got a bass part down for the different 3 sections of the tune. I will go through them if I decide I'm happy with these parts, which I pretty much think I'm feeling good about them. And if I still feel that way later on when I come back and have a listen with fresh ears, then I'll go through them and decide whether they need playing in again. I noticed there are a couple of little bits where when I was playing the slap stuff, there's a couple of slightly dead notes. maybe it won't matter. I'll have to decide. Some of it might need playing in again, but I'll not bore you with that. I'll do that in my own time. The important thing is coming up with the parts that work, and I hope that, like, my thoughts, sharing my thoughts, my insights into why I come up with certain bits and why I approach things in a certain way is at least reasonably interesting. We've lost a camera, but that's okay because I'm about to go to this view anyway. Right, so thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to play you out with the track, and I'll mix the bass levels as I play you out. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate the support. Don't forget, codes on my Patreon, and please do give the video a thumb up. Subscribe if you haven't done already. Take good care of yourselves. Make lots of music. Reach out to me if I can be of any help in any way, especially with songtemberiness. And my next stream, I believe, will probably be lunchtime tomorrow. I do have a gig tomorrow evening. I don't think I need to leave early, so I think I will be able to do a stream tomorrow lunchtime. All right? So, take care of yourselves, and try not to piss your pants about. I will see you later.